There is a piece of paper on the table, one paragraph. It says you were never employed by the British government in any intelligence capacity. The diplomat sitting across from you has never met you before today. He doesn't know your name. He doesn't know what you did for 19 years. He just needs your signature. You pick up the pen, you sign it, you slide it back across the table. He puts it in a folder. He stands up. He leaves without saying anything. You sit in the room for a moment. 19 years, 12 countries, 4 languages, one name that isn't yours anymore. That's how it ends. That's how it was always going to end. Level 1, the recruit. You don't find MI6. MI6 finds you. A professor at Durham mentions your name to someone he knows. 6 months later, a letter arrives. Civil service reference. Invitation to apply for a position in government communications. You apply without knowing what you're applying for. That's intentional. The assessment takes 3 days. Psychometric tests, language aptitude, analytical exercises, a panel interview where 4 people sit across from you and ask questions designed to find out how you think while you don't have enough information. They're not testing what you know. They're testing how you handle not knowing. You pass. A woman named Carter meets you in a coffee shop near Waterloo. She tells you what the job actually is. She gives you 48 hours to decide. You decide in 6. You tell your family you got a position with the Foreign Office. That's not entirely a lie. It's the version of the truth you will be telling for the rest of your career. You don't know yet how much that costs. You find out slowly. Level 2, the desk officer. First 2 years, you don't go anywhere. You sit in Vauxhall Cross analyzing intelligence from officers in the field, reading cables, writing assessments, building the picture that field officers use to make decisions. It feels invisible. You understand why it has to be this way. You need to understand the full picture before you're trusted to work inside it. Your supervisor is a man named Alderton, 26 years in. Calm, precise, never wastes a word. He tells you something in your first month. He says, in this job, the most dangerous thing isn't the enemy. He says, it's the gap between what you know and what you think you know. He says, most of the catastrophic failures in this service happened because someone was certain. You write it down. 6 months in, a cable comes across your desk. Intelligence from a source inside a foreign ministry. The intelligence points to a network operating in 3 countries. You write the assessment. You flag it up the chain. The assessment gets modified before it reaches the decision level. Not falsified, modified. You notice the difference between what you wrote and what went upstairs. You file it. You keep working. That's the first thing you file away. It won't be the last. Level 3, the field officer. 3 years in, Istanbul. Your cover is a trade consultant for a British logistic firm. The firm is real. The clients are real. You actually do the work. That's the point. Your first asset is a mid-level official in the Turkish Foreign Ministry. He doesn't know he's an asset. He thinks you're a contact who shares useful information in both directions. That's also the point. You meet him for lunch every 3 weeks. You listen more than you talk. You report everything. 6 months in, he mentions something offhand. A name. A meeting that happened in Ankara that wasn't on any official schedule. You file the report. London reports within 24 hours. They want more on the name. You go back to lunch. You ask the right questions in the wrong order so they don't feel like questions. He tells you more than he means to. That night, in your apartment, you write the report. You think about the lunch, the way he talked about his daughter starting university, the way he trusted you completely. You send the report. You go to sleep. That's the job. But you notice yourself thinking about the lunch more than you expected. Level 4, the case officer. 6 years in, Beirut. You run 3 assets simultaneously now. Different backgrounds, different access, different reasons for talking to you. One believes in what you represent. One needs money. One is being coerced, and you're the lesser of 2 pressures. You manage all 3. You keep the details separate in your head. Different meeting patterns. Different communication methods, different version of yourself you present to each of them. The one being coerced is a man named Khalil. He's 44, former engineer, family in Tripoli. He passes you information because the alternative is worse. He doesn't like you. You don't blame him. One evening, Khalil passes you something you weren't expecting. A document that implicates a senior British contractor in payments to a foreign intelligence service. Not a foreign national, a British citizen working for a British company on British government contracts. You report it immediately. London goes quiet for 72 hours. Then they tell you the information can't be verified through existing channels. They tell you to continue current operations. You read that response 3 times. You think about the assessment that got modified in your second year. You file this one next to it. You continue current operations. Level 5, the senior case officer. 9 years in. You're back in London now, training the next generation of field officers. You tell them what Alderton taught you. The most dangerous thing isn't the enemy, it's the gap between what you know and what you think you know. You also teach them what Alderton didn't teach you. The gap between what you report and what gets acted on. You don't teach that part explicitly. You teach it through the scenarios you run. You design a training exercise around an officer who discovers something that implicates the institution itself. What do you do with it? How do you report it? Who do you trust? The trainees debate it for 2 hours. Most of them choose the clean answer. Report it. Trust the chain of command. Let the system work. You let them believe that's the right answer. Because at 9 years in, you're not sure it is. But you're not sure it isn't either. And you need them to function. Level 6, the station chief. 12 years in, Vienna. You're on the station. 8 officers under your command. You manage their assets, their cover arrangements, their psychological state. That last one is the most important and the least official. Field work costs people something that doesn't show up in performance reviews. You watch your officers the way Alderton watched you. You look for the ones who are getting too close to their assets, the ones who are starting to forget which version of themselves is real. One of your officers is a woman named Shaw. Brilliant, precise, best instincts in the station. But she's been running the same asset for 4 years and something has shifted. She still files clean reports, but the way she talks about the asset in briefings has changed. You pull her aside. You don't frame it as a problem. You frame it as a rotation. New asset, new country, fresh perspective. She pushes back. You hold the line. 3 months later, she thanks you. You nod. You don't tell her you recognized it because the same thing happened to you in Beirut. You don't tell her about Khalil. Level 7, the deputy director. 16 years in. London. You sit in rooms now where the decisions get made before the operations begin. You see the full architecture for the first time. The intelligence that shaped policy decisions going back 15 years. The operations that never appeared in any official record. The relationships between your service and services that are publicly described as adversaries. Some of it makes sense when you see the whole picture. Some of it doesn't. You think about the assessment that got modified in year 2. You think about Khalil's document and the 72 hours of silence. You understand now why those things happened. Understanding why doesn't mean you agree with how. You sit in a briefing where a proposed operation is being debated. The operation will produce intelligence. It will also put an asset at significant risk. The asset has a family. You've never met this asset. You ask the question nobody else is asking. What happens to the family if it goes wrong? The room goes quiet in a particular way. The answer you get is operational. It covers the asset. It doesn't cover the family. You vote against the operation. You are outvoted. You document your objection. You always document everything. Level 8, the director of operations. 19 years in. You're in all field operations for the service. Every active officer in every country. Every asset. Every cover arrangement. Every operation currently running. The weight of that is abstract until it isn't. An operation goes wrong in Prague. An officer is detained. Not arrested. Detained. There's a difference in that language that matters enormously in the hours that follow. You work the phones for 14 hours straight. Diplomatic channels. Back channels. Channels that officially don't exist. The officer comes home 36 hours later. shaken, safe, officially a misunderstanding between allied services. You write the full account of what actually happened. You put it in a file. The file goes somewhere it won't be read for 30 years. That's how the institution protects itself, and how it protects the people who work for it. Those two things are sometimes the same, sometimes they aren't. 3 weeks after Prague, a diplomat slides a piece of paper across the table. He asks you to sign it. The paper says you were never employed by the British government in any intelligence capacity. You understand what it means. You understand why it's necessary. You pick up the pen. Level 9, the last briefing. You brief your successor for 3 weeks. Everything she needs to know about the operations currently running, the assets, the risks, the files that need watching. You don't brief her on the assessment from year 2, or Khalil's document, or the vote you lost in year 16, because those things are in the files, and the files will tell her their own story eventually. On the last day, she asks you one question. She says, "What's the thing nobody told you that you needed to know?" You think about it for a moment. You say, "The institution will protect itself before it protects you." You say, "That's not a reason to leave. It's a reason to document everything." She writes it down. You hope it helps her more than it helped you. Level 10, the unsigned version. You sit in the room after the diplomat leaves. 19 years, 12 countries, 4 languages. You think about the lunch in Istanbul, the official who trusted you completely, his daughter starting university. You think about Khalil in Beirut, the 44-year-old who hated you and passed you the document anyway. You never found out what happened to him after you rotated out. You hope the answer is better than what you imagine. You think about Shah. She runs a station now. She's good at it. She watches her officers the way you watched her. You think about the vote in year 16. The operation went ahead. The asset came through. The family was fine. You were wrong to vote against it. Or you were right to vote against it and got lucky. You still don't know which one. The uncertainty never goes. You stand up. You walk out of the building. Somewhere right now a letter is arriving. Civil service reference. Invitation to apply for a position in government communications. Someone is reading it without knowing what it is. They'll decide in 6 hours. They'll tell their family they got a position with the Foreign Office, and that'll be the last completely true thing they say for a very long time.